Hello, hello, yes it is I, the conspicuous new. Oh yes, Minfilia, thank you for getting back to me, yes. I was just wondering when I could pop by and pick up the last couple of quests for the main story chain. I'd like to get on to Heavensward now. It has been quite a journey, hasn't it? Yes, yes. So yeah, when's a good time to... yes. Yes, yes, I am aware, yes. I mean, it's difficult to miss the Crystal Tower. Right. Well, couldn't you send Thancred? I mean, he's been more of a hindrance than a help, let's be honest. Okay. They've asked for me. Okay, fine. Yep. They want me to go in there. Right. How long's that going to take? Okay. Well, no, not really. Plenty of other signs of the Seventh Dawn. Why is it me? I've been asked for specific... Yes. Warrior of Light. Yes, I know. Okay. All right. I'll go into the Crystal... 3 times. I'll go into the Crystal Tower 3... Right, okay. Fine. Right, great. Okay, Minfilia, but, when I get out of the Crystal Tower, after the 3rd time, we're going to have a little bit of a sit-down and we're going to renegotiate my contract, because I feel I'm just being taken by... She hung up. Hello, hello, possums. Yes, it is I, the conspicuous new. And yeah, that skit was a rendition exactly of the exchange of views that I had with Minfilia regarding having to go and do the Crystal Tower quest as well before she would allow me to finish the main story quest in A Realm Reborn. Bit of a shame. So, if you happen to be, somewhere around Mordona, which you should be at level 45, pay a little visit down to the Sons of Cornac and start and finish that Crystal Tower quest, because you won't be able to finish the main story quest without it. And, having finished A Realm Reborn now and moved on to Heavensward, I can heartily recommend it. It's definitely worth it. There's lots of very, very interesting story plot points that I have no intention of sharing with you. Thank you so much. Anyway... moving on, now that we are Heavensward and I'm 53, I don't feel a day over 50 myself, it's time to just sort of go over the Scholar things, and I'm really getting into Scholar and really rather enjoying it, but it's not perfect, so I want to go over the great things, the things I'm kind of struggling with, and the things I have to look forward to as well. So yes, if you're a Scholar, or you're coming up as a Scholar, or you're interested in trying it out, then maybe this will be useful for you. Anyway, let's get cracking. First of all, I didn't realise how important it was going to be to have an instant cast nuke. Ruin 1 is a cast, and then you have the cooldown afterwards. Ruin 2 at level 38 is instant, so it's much easier to weave in some additional damage, because as a healer you are expected to do damage whenever you possibly can. And I've done my best to do damage, but sometimes I've sort of erred. Well, I'm so focused on doing damage, I've not actually paying attention to the health bars, which are the more important things. And I have had a few aggrieved tanks as a result, but it's a learning experience. Now, ADLOQUIUM, which I think is the way it's said, it's the way I read it, as I think it should be said. I'm getting better at timing a new ADLOQUIUM, like, just as the other one is about to drop off. And it is very satisfying when, you get a catalyze, and it's double the shield, and you've got a nice, big, chunky yellow bar there, and you don't have to worry about them for a while. You can concentrate on damage, or doing a dance, or eating your fairy, whatever you feel like doing. No, I'm not judging here. Talking of the fairy, of course, there isn't a Selene, there is only Eos. There was, I believe, way back when, it was actually a meaningful choice. As a coaster, eat your heart out, where, they had different abilities attached to them. And Selene was a more offensive, I think it had a haste buff, and Eos was more of your Healy. Now they both do the same thing, so it's an aesthetic choice, and I've gone with Eos. So, Selene, sorry, I've sent her off to boarding school. I do have to say that Whispering Dawn is a lovely comfort blanket. It's very nice. You can put it up fairly regularly, and it just keeps everybody ticking over quite nicely. It's a nice little AoE hot that you get. And as yet, the warnings I've been having that, the pets are like terminally thick and don't always react all that well. I haven't experienced a lot of that yet, so, fingers crossed, I've got a clever one. Rescue! to be honest, one of the main reasons I would ever play a priest in World of Warcraft, and I've had a couple of priests over the years, is because of Leap of Faith, which is an ability where you can just yoink someone back, usually for the lulz, not because you're actually saving them, pulling people into incinerator beams and that sort of thing. So having an ability like Rescue, which is available to all healers, is very nice indeed. I will, in my defense, at the moment, as of this time of recording, I have only used it for good. So I am aching to mouse over macro this, but I'm scared if I do a mouse over macro for that, it's going to throw out the entire rotation, the entire reset cooldown server thing. So I don't really want to do that just yet, but it is one of those things where you sort of go, uh-oh, and yank him in. For good or for evil, but so far for good. Abilities, they're not meh, but they're more, I'm struggling with them a bit. And Succour is unfairly maligned in this respect, because Succour is a great cast. It's quite expensive, but it's more about the way that I'm using it as I'm learning to become a scholar, and other people in your group. So I mean, at the moment, Succour for me is difficult to time because I'm not aware of most of the mechanics in the game. I'm new to the game and new to the dungeons and the bosses and the trials and all the rest of it. So I don't know when the big nukes are coming out where, a well-timed Succour is just like Scholar perfect. Because that's really what Scholar's designed for. It is a preemptive healer. It's designed to stop the damage before it even goes out, so your white mage can just keep casting Glare. So, I've done my due diligence. I did my homework for all of the main story quest areas that they've sent me to. But, even, watching them a couple of times, you're not going to get a real solid understanding of how all the mechanics work. And, a lot of times I've been using Succour more to shore people up so other healers can top them off, as opposed to actually doing the preventive healing. But, that is a practice and experience thing. So that's not actually a problem with the ability itself. I think the most important thing is that when you do get it right, it feels terrific. It must feel terrific to everybody else, because, they're like, uh-oh, here we go. Let's see if this scholar's actually sentient or not. And, when you actually do get a good Succour off, everyone gets covered, and, a whole bunch of damage is mitigated. It feels really, really satisfying. So that's probably why I'm going to stick around with it, because I'd like to be in that position where, people think that they're in safe hands, and they would be absolutely right. At the moment, I'm just a liability. The other thing about Succour is, it's range. But that's not really a problem with Succour. It's a problem with half of the raid group who have decided to be on the other side of the arena when I've been casting it, and they don't get their shields and they get splattered, and they go, I don't know what's all that about. And I say, well, if you stick around with your healers and stay in range, then you wouldn't have that problem. Healer times. It's not as if I'm going to waste a 2-minute cooldown and rescue to pull you across because you're blatantly not with the rest of the group. I probably have got better uses for it. Aetherflow is the one where I'm also having fairly mixed results. The cooldown I think is fine, but at 3 charges, it's too many for out in the world, and it's not enough for instance content, particularly the more raidy 8-24-man encounters. I'm finding that maybe I'm just casting them or doing it wrong. It's all part of that learning experience. But at the moment, as at this point, you have 3 different abilities that you can use the Aetherflow gauge for, and you get 3 charges. Now, Lustrate is it's a hell of a heal. It is a very, very nice heal indeed, and it can heal for obscene amounts, especially if you're stacking a lot of crit. But I do feel myself still reaching for Physic quite a lot, which is a lesser heal, if you like. Than I should, because of charges and etc. Chances are usually there's a white mage or an astrologian who is particularly aligned who can deal with that anyway, and they've usually topped them off before I get to Lustrate anyway. Sacred Soil, I read the tooltip wrong initially and thought it was a 90% damage reduction for 15 seconds. And can you imagine that on 3 charges? You would just be cheesing everything to death. Anyway, it isn't. It's a 10% damage reduction. So I mean, at the moment, I'm currently using it on melee for raid-wide AOE events. And when they decline to run out of red circles, and I'm feeling generous, I might chuck it down then. But it looks great, and it's pretty useful. Let's be honest. Energy Drain, I think, is the weak link of the 3. I mean, the damage is less than Ruin 2. The MP return is 500 out of 10,000, so it's not amazing by any means. So at the moment I'm only really using it if I'm really desperate for MP, or another Aetherflow cooldown is about to come up and I need to expend all the charges, so I'll just fire a couple of those into the boss's face and then get back to them. It's decent enough out in the world, but at the moment I'm not really finding energy drain is all that useful in other instance content with other people. Things I'm looking forward to. Broil. If you're aware of, most healers' damage rotations aren't particularly dynamic, so having an additional damage button is always welcome. I hope it doesn't replace Ruin. It looks like it's a nice long cast nuke for when you have the ability to, and it will make my life easier out in the field as well. So yes, Broil is like next level as well. I think it's 54. Deployment tactics. This is another one where I've misread the tooltip and thought, oh wow, it does all of that. It doesn't really. I mean, I thought it was, say you cast a Succour and then you use deployment tactics, then you would extend the length of the Succour by another 15 seconds. It's not that. It's a way to spread it. So the way I think it works is that if you have an ADLOQUIUM on a player or yourself, you can use deployment tactics and you can spread that shield to everyone around you, which sounds very, very useful. It's another one of those oh dear AoE shielding moments. It's like an additional Succour really on a 2-minute cooldown. I kind of like that. That's a very cute way of doing it anyway. Chain Stratagem, I think, it looks like utility to me. So, if I can bring something awesome to the raid, like, an additional 10% crit damage, 15 seconds, I'll take it. Excogitation looks interesting. It looks very much like something you throw into the tank. And it looks like it's a pretty potent heal as well. So, I think it's even stronger than Lustrate, actually, come to think of it. It's on a pretty short cooldown as well, so it looks like you just sort of chuck this in the tank and it's like a Paladin Beacon from WoW perhaps, or something like Prayer of Mending for the Holy Priests. So yeah, I mean, it does look very, very useful. I mean, a lot of people got very excited about it. I'm not sure I'm going to be that thrilled at casting it, and there are much more interesting things to do. But, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And then there's Seraph. Now, this is Eos's big sister. So it looks like it's a shield version of Eos, basically. Eos will just check out heals and do an AoE heal over here and increase the healing done and reduce magic damage by 5%, all of these different abilities. And Seraph is just like the shield ability of that. So instead of chucking on a few heals here and there, she'll just be dabbing shields onto people who take any damage. Sounds very nice. It means I don't have to do it. So yes, welcome aboard Seraph. I think that's level 80. And there's something about a fairy gauge as well. No idea what's going on there, but there was an ability that said, oh, it costs fairy gauge. And I was like, okay, I guess it's a level 70 ability. Anyway, overall, I'm really quite enjoying myself. For someone who, is rubbish, was always rubbish at Disc Priests in World of Warcraft, which is the closest approximation you would get for a scholar. It's a sort of preventative healing as opposed to reactive. I've always been more in the reactive area, and so doing something preventative with a pet, no less, is quite a departure from my normal MMO adventure, and I am really enjoying that different change of pace. So at the moment the biggest problem I have with Scholar is how am I going to fit all of these abilities onto my bars and remember them. But that's quite a nice problem to have. It means that you have a lot of different options, and it'll keep the gameplay varied. I'm kind of thinking of putting all of the like Eos/Seraph abilities onto a separate bar. Because I've got a pet bar when I'm talking about the actual ability bar itself. So I can keep them all in one place, and I can sort of monitor the cooldowns and make sure that she's doing all of the things. But yeah, it's something to think about. I'm going to have to reorganize my bars at some point because I'm 53 levels out of 80. I'm not that far away, right? Right? It's just around the corner. Please tell me the main story quest is not as long in the sequels as it was for A Realm Reborn, because oh my god. I still think that's going to be a deal breaker, but for a lot of players anyway, I think the length and complexity of the main story quest is going to turn a lot of people off if it hasn't already. But I'm still here, I'm still standing, yeah, as Elton John would say. So I think that's it for now. I will be back relatively soon because there have been some Blizzard-like developments, so I'll be making a video on that relatively shortly. But until then, I am the conspicuous Moo, and here's an ADLOQUIUM for you.